You better you bet. Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos here with you, San Francisco, California. The site, technically Santa Clara.
Yeah, we're in San Francisco now.
Yeah, that's Super Bowl in Santa Clara, but Radio Row, thank God, in San Francisco and not Santa Clara. No offense to Santa Clara. Presented by BetMGM. My guest at this time, the first time that we've ever spoken on or off air, I am very pleased to welcome to You Better You Bet. And I said this to him, and it's the truth. Now, Robert Mays is with us, host of the Athletic Football Show. I am a gigantic sports fan, as our audience knows. I purposefully do not listen or watch a ton of sports content outside of games because I want my stuff to be my stuff.
Sure.
One of the only shows that I consume on a regular basis is the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays, Derek Klassen, and Dave Hellman. You guys do such an unbelievable job. And when I said to you off air, I'll say it on air, kind of like seeing everything on field, salary cap, draft, coaching staff. I didn't know who Clayton Adams was until you talked about him. And just as one example. So I am a huge fan of you and your show. It's great to have you here on You Better You Bet. How's it going? Happy Super Bowl week.
It's great to be here. I sincerely appreciate having me, and I'm incredibly flattered. That I understand exactly that, where you're making content all the time. You don't always have the most time to consume other people's, and so the fact that we kind of fill that very small sliver for you means a lot.
Do you feel like when you're doing that show, like, that you're nailing it the way that, like, I think a lot of your listeners do, or the way that I do?
No.
I find that to be, I think that's so interesting, like personality-wise, right? Because I'll be honest, I'm really critical of myself and my show, right? I think most of the time we do a really good job, and I walk away from a lot of shows being like, man, like, I nailed it today. And I'm pretty honest. If not, and like my producer will tell you, I'll call him and be like, we suck today, what can we do better? How is it possible that you don't think you guys are killing it? Because it's so obvious to me that you are.
I just think there's always a better version of it. There's always something you could do a little bit differently. I think that you watch something, and I don't listen to a lot of stuff all the way through now, again, just because of bandwidth issues, but you'll see somebody make a point about something, about a subject that you were covering, and you're like, oh man, we kind of missed that angle on it. Like, to me, there's just so much stuff out there. You always feel compelled to be doing things in a little bit clearer or a little bit more interesting of a way. And so I think that there's just like a consistent need to reach a standard that I don't always feel that we do. And I think that's a hard way to move through the world because you're very rarely satisfied with everything that's going on. But I think ultimately it serves the quality of the show over time.
I want to ask you now, I wasn't going to bring this up, but something you just said in that answer, kind of like if I'm thinking of like samurai movie, right? Like Act 3, The Cost of Greatness. And kind of like, because I kind of feel this way a little bit, right? The toll that can kind of take on your personal life when you're so ensconced in this needs to be great. And I'll be like, your show is great. And you'll walk away sometimes feeling like, oh, like we missed it. And I think what can get lost sometimes with the audience, and it's not a negative to the audience, is don't understand the toll that can take kind of, is that fair to say? Like that takes a personal toll on me at least. Would you say it's kind of the same for you?
I think in some ways, yes. I think that, I mean, this is an intense conversation in the sense that, like, there's a lot to dig into here.
Yeah, we will talk football.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. I think that there are, locus of control is like an idea where if you have an internal or an external locus of control. So what can you control and what are the things that motivate you? And I think that, I've had weirdly, not to name drop, but I've had a very similar like conversation about this with like Sean McVay. Right, like when Sean was young.
That was a nice little sneak in there. That's pretty cool.
He and I have done conversations on the show. People can listen to them. He and I did like a very long podcast a couple years ago, and we talked about this exact idea where it was like, okay, if you are motivated by things outside of your own personal standards, if you're motivated by whether you win on Sunday, if that is where you find value and whether you find your self-worth, the success that you're having with outward things, eventually that's going to be something that runs out.
Because he won the Super Bowl and felt like he wasn't satisfied afterwards.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I was when I was young, where I'd be looking at, am I as successful as everybody else? Am I doing as much as everybody else does? And there are some things in my personal life that I think led me to this place. But now I'm at a point where I don't really look at what other people are doing. Like, I don't feel competitive with other shows or other football content products because I think there's not a lot, it doesn't serve me to think that way. When I look at it, all I'm really trying to do every day is the best version of what I can do. And I think if we do that, and I've always said that the show that we do is driven by two things. It's a combination of the things that we're excited about and the things that we're curious about. And if I'm doing the best version of a show that is rooted in those two ideas, and I'm meeting my own standard every day, that's enough for me. That's all I have to do. I just don't think I reach that standard very often.
You do, and like I love that you have that attitude, but you absolutely do. It's like Bill Walsh said, like the score takes care of itself if you do all the things that need to be done.
You can only do what you can do, right? It's just like if I put in everything, and listen, there are times where I know I didn't, right? Like there are times where like that was a 7 today, and if I'm constantly hitting like a 9, that's all that really matters to me. I think that's the goal.
Tell me about Robert Mays' football life. How you came, because I think this stuff's so interesting, man. Like, I love the NFL. It's been like my favorite thing, like based since I was a little boy. Tell me about your football life, kind of like how like your love of the game shaped you to where you are now. I'll say it so you don't have to. One of the preeminent voices covering the National Football League.
I appreciate that. It's
but like it's the truth. It's not even like it's not blowing smoke.
My history with the game is deep. I mean, it was football was life when I was a kid. You know, I grew up in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area. On Sundays at noon.
And how old are you, just for reference for our
I'm
audience?
38.
Okay. So you weren't there for 85.
I was not there for 85. Yeah. So like my earliest football memories.
My producer Bill is 50. He was there for 85.
We went to the same high school. Yeah. So we're from the same area
like
outside of Chicago.
20 years older than you.
But I grew up. So like the first like football memories I have watching Bears games are like 93, 94, like Eric Kramer era Bears.
Yeah.
And so that was on Sunday. Fox game was on at noon. In our living room, my grandparents would come over, bring like a huge spread of like Italian cold cuts. We just make sandwiches when we'd sit in front of the TV. And so that was early on. And then we got season tickets. My dad got them through work in like maybe like 96, 97. And so we would pick out probably 4-ish games to go to every year, just me and him. And so I grew up black and blue, NFC North. I had like a weird dalliance with the Bucks at that time.
Oh, okay.
I was a kid, right? And so like the Bucks just changed their uniforms. It was like the 98,
and this is when Dungy got hired in 96, so they started to get good.
They were a very cool team, and so I was obsessed with football for a very young age. I started playing when I was 12, and then played all the way through high school. It was my entire life when I was in high school. It was my entire identity, my entire existence. Didn't end up wanting to play in college. Really wanted to just like focus on being a student, and I went to Mizzou, did journalism. Had like kind of a winding path through that, but then when I eventually decided I wanted to write about sports professionally, I got a job at Grantland when I was young. I was 23, and it just kind of happened that.
How did that happen? Because when you, just so people know, when Robert's, and I actually don't know if this is true, I'm assuming, I could be wrong. When you say I got a job at Grantland, what you mean to say is Bill Simmons hired you.
Yes.
How does that happen?
I was the sports intern at the Boston Globe my summer out of college. And so my second day at the Globe was the NBA Finals game. The Celtics were playing the Lakers in the finals. And
the time they beat them, they lost in 10, they won in 08.
In 2010. Yeah. So, and then I was walking around the garden before the game and saw Bill. And Bill was the reason I wanted to be a sports writer.
Here's how funny it's like, because we're around the same age, and like ESPN Page 2 is like a relic of the past.
That was it. I mean, it was like
Scoop Jackson.
When I was, how cool that was when I was like 14, 15 years old. Yep. And so I was reading Bill, just reading like the running diaries and like the GM summit and just like the Vegas stuff. And I was like, it's crazy that you can get paid to write about sports like this. And so he really kind of shaped really my desire to do it professionally. And so I met him and just introduced myself and said hello. And, we just kind of exchanged pleasantries, and, I got his email, and so I thought that was it. And so I sent him an email that night, just like, I'm so glad, it was so nice to meet you, I really appreciate your time, everything else. And about 2 months later, I wrote what was kind of my biggest story at the Globe that summer, and he tweeted a link to the story. And I emailed him saying thank you, and he had already emailed me on my Boston Globe email account, and it was essentially, that was a good story today, when is your internship over, I have a job for you.
Wow.
And so that was it.
When you saw that email, like what emotions run through your body?
Well, the funniest part about it is I didn't have remote access to my email. And so I had to drive to the Globe office to read the email, and it changed my life. I mean, it changed my life. And at that point, Grantland was like barely an idea. This was the summer of 2010.
Yeah.
We wouldn't launch it until June 2011, and so I was kind of the first person hired to work there.
So I think what's fascinating, right, is at this point you're a sports writer, right? For people that have not listened, and you should listen to the Athletic Football Show, you have, in addition to like an encyclopedic knowledge of every roster and every coaching staff, you understand the schematics of what teams are running. Like, I don't watch football on that level where I can say this team's running a cover 6 or this team. I don't watch football like that. You do, and you have a great ability to distill that down so people like me can hear it and say, this is unbelievable. When did you get into that part of consuming football?
It was early. I mean, when I was covering the sport for Grantland in 2011, 2012, it was awesome because Bill Barnwell was like the main football writer at Grantland at the time. And Bill and I we did a podcast together for years. He's a very close friend of mine. I love him dearly. But one of my favorite parts about working with Barnwell is he is prolific. Like the production that he has is incredible. And so he would essentially do the job of two main football writers where he would cover the sport in the, I was going to say like accessible way, but like that's not really true because his stuff is very deep. But his ability to do this is the Sunday recap, right? Like here is what happened on Sunday. He handled all that. And so I was able to kind of do weirder things. I was able to kind of like dive deep on things and really get into the granularity of it. And at the time, and this is like really getting into it, all 22 access on like NFL Game Pass in like 2011 was better than it is now.
Yeah.
And so you were really able to watch the film in a way that was very seamless and very easy. And so I think that the year where that really changed is I remember watching the Texans in 2012 when J.J. Watt like really ascended.
But we won Defensive Player of the Year.
It was when he really became like a superstar level player. And I remember watching like all 22 Texans games in 2012, like learning about the league, talking about the league. And I think that was kind of the moment where I was like, all right, I'm trying to understand the game on this level and really get into like why it's working, why it's not. And I remember I did a series for Grantland at that time where it was called the All 22 All-Stars. And it was essentially like mini profiles of guys who may not be superstars, but they're really good players. Like Jarrell Casey, Muhammad Wilkerson,
both
Cam
defensive
Wake.
tackles,
Like it's just guys where like maybe you don't really appreciate what they're providing to the game unless you're watching it from that level. And so I think that was kind of the entry point to wanting to talk and think about the sport that way.
I guess like we should probably talk some football now, and you've been very generous with your time already. You bet Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, joined by Robert Mays, host of the Athletic Football Show. The show is incredible. If you love football, subscribe to it. Follow him on Twitter at Robert Mays. So this will be a fun question for you. Now, the way you described yourself, I'm a couple years older than you, is me as a Giants fan. So first year I watched the NFL is 1990. I see my team win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Watching games with my dad and my grandfather, right? So I would say as time has gone on, and I only say this because I listen to the show, I feel like you're a bigger Bears fan than I am a Giants fan now, and I would love to kind of recapture that a little bit. So anyway, the Giants hire John Harbaugh, right? And I say on the show, I'm really into this hire, but I want to know who the offensive coordinator is, right? And I think it's going to be Todd Monken, and I'm fired up, and I hate the Browns now because of this, right? So it comes down on yesterday, on Tuesday, that the Giants hire Matt Nagy, who's one of your former coaches with the Bears. And I think I'm devastated by this. What is your opinion of Matt Nagy hired by the Giants to run the offense?
I think it's pretty underwhelming. I just think that if you look at, I don't understand why Matt Nagy was the second choice. Like if you're going to miss out on Todd Monken, I just thought that John Harbaugh, being somebody who's been in the league for as long as he has, the Rolodex of like interesting options would be longer than that. Like I think that Todd Monken's done a really, really good job with the Ravens. I just think that the version of the offense Matt Nagy wants to run, at first glance, I think it makes sense with Jackson Dart, right? It's going to be gun heavy. It's going to be RPO heavy. That's fine. I just don't think that Matt Nagy is a very good problem solver as an offensive coordinator. Like I think that the moment you get one layer deeper than that initial sell, it worries me.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. What do you think we see coming up in Super Bowl 60 with the Patriots and the Seahawks?
It's funny. I was talking about this earlier today, like my process of how I was kind of consuming and thinking about the game itself. And when I first thought about the matchup, I was like, the Seahawks are a much better team. And then I saw the line, and I was like, this is lower than I thought it was going to be. And what am I missing about this? And so I just started thinking about the different versions of the game that could be a 4-point game. And I can see that, right? I can see a version of the game that is a 23-19
How do you
win.
think that happens? And like, I love asking you this question because you're going to like, I'm looking forward to the answer.
I think that the Patriots defense, both structurally and the quality we've seen from them recently, is good enough and positioned well enough to give Seattle problems. I think that there's a version of this game where Sam Darnold turns the ball over twice and gets sacked 4 times.
And no one would be so. What I've said is, if he turns into Kerry Collins from Super Bowl 35, like, will anyone really be shocked? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's in the range of outcomes.
I think that he's played really good football for most of this year, but he is somebody that will turn the ball over, and I think that that's okay. Like this idea that turnovers are the worst thing you can do as a quarterback. The great moments you get from him are driven in part by the fact that every once in a while he's going to turn the ball over. And so I think it's just it's the cost of doing business when Sam Darnold is your quarterback and you're allowing him to play at a high level. You're going to have opportunities, and there are going to be opportunities for the other team for them to have 2 or 3 devastating low-light moments that kind of change the course of the game. And I think that's the version of it where the Patriots are in it, where they can kind of muck it up and it can be a low-scoring game on both sides.
Seahawks win a close game in your estimation to give you the opportunity to change your mind.
I honestly think they win, and I think they win pretty convincingly.
Seattle does.
Yes. I think if Seattle won this game 24-16 or 27-16, I could see that happening. I just think that top to bottom, Seattle is a much better team than the Patriots. Again, that's just what I come down to. I think that this season has been strange, right? Like the mainstays and the Blue Bloods haven't been a part of the playoffs the way that we're used to. And I think in a lot of ways that's warped the way that we talk and think about these teams. The Patriots being in the Super Bowl is surprising. Like, the Patriots are not the type of team that typically gets to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are.
Yeah.
Like, top to bottom, the Seahawks are a really, really good team. If you look at the advanced metrics, like, they're one of the best teams in the history of DVOA. Like, they are a very, very good football team top to bottom. And just because the Darnold of it all and the Seahawks as a whole kind of snuck up on us on a little bit, I think that overall people aren't fully appreciating the quality of the team that we're talking about, and I think that may be bleeding into the expectations people have about the game.
Where's this sweater from?
Drake's.
So let me tell you something. Are you familiar with the brand I'm a Leandor?
No.
So it's actually, I'm a Greek guy from Queens, New York, founded by Teddy Santis, this Greek guy from Queens, New York. I love the brand. They have done a couple collaborations with Drake's, and now that you say that, I see it, obviously. I have a Drake sport coat that I got from the store in Manhattan. They had a sample sale that there was I actually got it tailored. There was something wrong with it. I got it for $400.
That's an incredible deal.
And I have this white jacket, and I made Drake's collab with brown shearling on the neck. That is fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of the brand Drake's. I actually should have known that. They call this a jumper,
yes,
right, is what it's called.
It's a British brand. Yeah,
that is absolutely awesome.
I'm a huge fan of what they do. I am not in the price range of buying their sport coats, but it's very good stuff.
Well, you got to come to Manhattan and go to the sample sale and get it for way off. I'm being sincere when I say this. I would love to ask you questions about every coaching hire, like all the minutia of the league that I love and that you revel in and do a great job with. You've been very generous with your time. I really appreciate it. I would love to get you on the show in the future.
Let's do it.
Everybody check out the Athletic Football Show. Robert Maye is here with us on You Better You Bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, more You Better You Bet on the other side here from Radio Row in San Francisco.